Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for inviting ICC. I'm indeed Anne Bathily. Is that okay? Do you hear me well? Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, I finished my coffee and I like turtles too. I think it's very good. Starting point. I have 10, I know I have less than 10. I have 7 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna try to stick to this. Just for you to see my face, I'm one of the ICC experts. So ICC is the network of cities I'm gonna talk about today. So now that you see my face, I'm gonna share my screen. So you can, I have like 5-6 slides. And so we can start. Can we? No, we can't. That's interesting. What? Yeah, because I have too many windows. Sorry for this. Okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, fine. All right. Is that okay? Do you want me up?
Oh,
Might
great.
be better. Okay, good. Okay, so it's 11:11. Very good. Starting point. So intercultural cities, it's a network of cities, mainly in Europe, but not only, in the US, in Canada, in Japan, in Australia. And as you see the map, indeed, many are located in Europe. It's 136 cities and municipalities in 34 countries. And the key question mark of ICC is the diversity, how to ensure equality in a diverse environment or hyper diverse environment. So it's about municipalities and cities, and it's limited to local authorities with a certain size. So the issue of trust when it comes to ICC is closely linked to equality and diversity. I'm gonna now tell you my 2 comments for you participants, and actually for me as well. And it's linked to ICC view, and it's linked to how we speak about this issue of trust. I think my first question is, what is the issue? What is it that we're talking about, and who's talking about trust? Who's asking for more trust? Who's asking about who's putting this on the table? And to me, this is a very important question and issue to clarify, because what I feel, and particularly at the moment, is that under issues of trust, we actually pursue different objectives. And so I think this is really something that might be sensitive, very sensitive, but also that needs to be clarified in order to avoid mistrust and misunderstanding. So that's my first question. What is it that we're talking about? How does trust look like? What are the objectives behind, and who are actually putting these objectives on the table? So first question. The second question that is a little bit provocative, particularly for this conference, is, do we need to label? So I'm talking about urban context and or semi-urban context. I'm not talking about rural or semi-rural context, okay? But in the urban context, where you have actually different groups, is there a need, and when is there a need to have specific measures when it comes to cohesion, neighborhood measures, or well-being, or trust? When it comes to trust, do we need to label? Do we need to have specific projects targeting refugees, migrants, and host society? And behind, to me, coming also based on my personal experience, there's also this very, this risk that labeling people can indeed, on the one hand, create space where people's specificities can be addressed and specific needs can be addressed. But on the other hand, and I think we've seen that the past years, a label and a positive perception can very quickly turn into a negative one. And just an example in Germany was Köln event. There was a before, there was an after. So to me, that's the two questions. To you. Okay, so what I said is that for ICC, trust is linked to equality. This is the objective. And equality means that there is no trust without a certain level of cohesion. And that means also that there is a structural aspect of trust and indeed of equality, which means equal rights, equal access, equal opportunity. And that means that the issue of trust between refugee, migrants, newcomers, and host societies has to be part of a broader approach, which is an equality approach. So that's the first thing. The second base is the contact theory. So ICC is really based on the contact theory, which means that interactions leads to trust. So segregation leads to mistrust. And this contact theory is the basis for looking at different areas and domain within a territory. Can be a neighborhood, can be public spaces, libraries, governance. It's looking at all these areas through the lens of the contact theory. The third aspect is the diversity, but even more the diversity advantage. So it's not only a communication issue, but it's also a communication issue. How does a city promote diversity, value diversity, but it's also how to showcase the richness of diversity through actions. How do we do that, or how do cities do that? Well, they use, there are different approaches that are at the basis of the intercultural approach. And I will just mention two, and of course I will share my presentation with you. The one is the importance of mediation. Because the idea is that, of course, trust has to be built, which means that many of the things that we are looking at is how cities do prevent conflict, what kind of spaces, what kind of mechanisms do cities explore in order to make sure that at the neighborhood level, it's not only that conflict can be mediated, but it's also that a citizen or residents will be directly engaged in providing their own solutions or in framing their own issues in terms of conflict, in terms of safety. The second aspect I wanted to emphasize is the power sharing aspect, which is something that is quite delicate and quite difficult to reach, but that is really at the basis also of the intercultural approach, is that trust is not, and I'll be provocative, because I think to me this is also the difference between a charity approach from an equality approach. So it's not about, people are not recipients of aid. Building trust is sharing power. Empowerment is this moment where people get the power to actually take part, take responsibility, being accountable, and this is also one of the key issues and one of the key ideas within the intercultural approach and network as a laboratory of how cities and within cities power can be shared. But to me, when it comes to refugees and migrants, it is a critical aspect, because very often trust is one way. What we ask people is to trust authorities, and we ask, of course, the host society to open their doors, but the equality in the relationship is rarely actually addressed. So very often when you look at projects or initiatives, it remains at the tokenism level. So it's more about involving people through consultation, but it rarely reaches the point where people can actually decide and also be accountable. I move. How do we do that, or how do cities do that? This is a picture of the index. The index are actually all the areas the ICC is looking at. And I will just choose two I think are very interesting. One is education public space when it relates to multilingualism. So one of the things we see in cities that are actually quite welcoming and endorsing this approach is the importance of multilingualism, not only in public spaces, but also in the education. And the idea, of course, behind is not only to make sure that differences and diversity is everywhere, is like really public, but also to make sure that people can be proud of who they are and through the language. The second aspect to me is the mediation I said, but it's the, sorry, the commitment. The city is at the forefront of making sure that through its own governance, through its own strategy, it can really not only communicate the citizen what is the vision, what makes the identity actually common, but also to make sure that it adjusts its own ways of working to this vision. So the commitment part that relates to how the city, it's not only the recruitment, it's also the strategy, it's the collaboration with stakeholders within the city, ensure the participation actually of all residents. Okay, so I just want to give 3 examples. Oh, I'm late. Okay, 3 examples. One, Toronto, and it's linked to commitment and strategy. It's the equity lens of Toronto strategy, where you can see actually a number in the bullet points in the list, a number of, how Toronto sees that in a holistic approach, linked to poverty, but also anti-Black racism, integrating cities charter. And I think, for us, it's really a good example of a holistic approach. The second one is ensure rights, even when that means circumventing federal rules and legal constraints. So it's based on the Spanish example of Padrón, and it's the New York City resident card that offers a number of services to all residents, regardless of their status. And as a result, this card that was also duplicated in other cities actually offered services to more than 500,000 undocumented people in New York. The third example are the anti-rumor strategies that are actually processes at neighborhood level with the objective of dismantling false rumors. And what is you just have to look at the training pack to understand actually how in the process people in the neighborhood identify themselves, the rumors, and actually address these rumors altogether. I have to stop. Thank you.